And I know you speak a ton about food, and we're probably going to agree fundamentally that good nutrition needs to be gut health centric, anti-inflammatory, sustainable, like good and phytonutrients. Like, and we can get into as deep as you want to on my nutrition philosophies, but nutrition is the key. Certainly when it comes to weight loss, like it drives 75 to 80% of the results, because if we're manipulating calories, it's a heck of a lot easier to clean up the nutrition, feel full and energized versus trying to go out and exercise off calories. And as you know intimately as well, food is either nutrition or it's poisonous. It's like it can literally be poison. We eat the wrong kinds of foods that are inflammatory for our GI tract, or too much sugar for glycemic dysregulation. Like, we're poisoning ourselves. So there's no amount of exercise that's going to go over that or mitigate that. So we got to get the nutrition nailed. And the way we talk about nutrition is not just strictly in terms of like foods. We like to talk about in terms of schedules and structures. So I believe that busy parents need to get like set routines in place where you know what your meal timing is. Maybe you choose to intermittent fast and either have an early breakfast or skip breakfast. Maybe you have breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner. Maybe you do a 24-hour fast once a week and eat a certain way on given days. But you want to sync that up into your family schedule life so there's less friction. And then we layer on go-to meals into the day that gives you the ability to be consistent.
That's brilliant. And if anyone understands the importance of that, it's going to be parents, right? I mean, my sister has a 1-year-old and she is bump, 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 bump. He's got to nap at this time and eat at this time. And she's just learned, as I'm sure most parents have, if you deviate too far from that schedule, you're going to have a really cranky kid on your hands, or, they're not going to sleep well. And the next day is going to be horrid. And I've noticed the same thing with myself. If I think about the next day, just as a quick example, I'm like, okay, got a busy day tomorrow. I'm going to take this frozen chicken breast, put it in the oven, pre-set the oven to start at 6:45 a.m. so that by the time I get up, I have a chicken breast ready to go. So it's just boom. And maybe it's not the most savory meal, but on a busy day, it's either something quick or nothing at all. But either one of those are usually not good options.
Yeah, totally. And like, you just paved the path for your future success. And like, this scenario would be, Michael, if either of us showed up at like our clients' houses and like knocked on the door when it was mealtime and handed them, hey, here's your favorite healthy meal. Like, I'll see you in 4 hours. Like, what a service that would be. Everyone would be successful. Here's your food. We got to find a way to do that for ourselves. And this comes down to habits like meal prep. But honestly, quite frankly, you don't have to always be cooking. Like, you can get what I call go-to meals that don't require any cooking. So like what I had this morning for breakfast is I had like this power shake that had like almond milk. I had some plant-based protein, basil seeds, hemp seeds. I had an apple on the side, wild blueberries, and like maybe there's some coconut fat in there. Like, that was a shake that had so many micronutrients, healthy fats, protein, a little bit of carbohydrate, and it kept me full for like 4 or 5 hours. And so like, what if you made a go-to best in slot meal? And for busy parents, and this also applies for entrepreneurs, I believe that we're balancing the forces of consistency with variety. We want both, but I think if we're going to skew on one side, be a little more consistent and save the variety for later in the day when you're mentally kind of decompressing. So I teach in our programs that it's good to dial in go-to meals for like your first 1 to 2 meals of the day. It's a behavioral hook. You don't need to think about it. You can just get into it, go-to meal. Typically is going to be something that makes you feel great, foods that digest well for you, good in nutrition. And then dinner, you have more wiggle room. Like, maybe you order something out or in, maybe you cook at home, but like generally following healthy principles. And this seems to work for people because let's say you did have a bad day, and bad day defined by you ate things off plan, you missed a meal, you're out with the kids for sports, you get fast food. Like, now you have a behavioral hook to get back on the next day, because it's not a problem that you ate one meal that was not healthy. It's just a problem when that shifts your momentum to the state where now you have weeks off plan because you're feeling guilty or whatever. Yeah. So these behavioral hooks of consistent go-to meals in the beginning of the day are massively important.
And I've also found that to be totally the case, where during the day I can do the quick, more simple, bake, set it and forget it sort of meals. And then usually come dinner, I'm wanting something fresh cooked or maybe ordered in, a little more savory. And if you've hit the daytime correctly, you also haven't built up a huge caloric deficit so that dinner becomes like, and I've also done that. And, this reminds me of something else that was news to me, but we recently reviewed, there was this study that made all these rounds that these researchers found if you intermittent fast, there was a 92% increased risk of cardiovascular mortality. Wasn't actually accurate. And when you review it, you see there's a number of errors in their methodology that question the validity. But when you look at the meta-analyses on intermittent fasting, what was interesting is looking at the same windows of fasting and the same caloric intake, but those who fasted and ate earlier in the day compared to those who fasted all day and ate late dinners, even with the same amount of calories, those who ate dinner by or around 6 p.m. had more weight loss, better insulin, and better fasting glucose. So coming back to the concept of a schedule, and this is also something I've really struggled with because it's so easy to just sort of nip away a little bit during the day and then gorge at night, and oftentimes gorge too late at night. I've lost and kept off 5 pounds just by eating earlier. It's really been amazing because that meta-analysis motivated me. I tried it, and I mean, within a week, I saw pretty significant changes. So I agree with you wholeheartedly that a schedule is really crucial for success.
I completely agree as well. And I mean, like on the fasting front, like I have, it's come into my awareness too, and I practice this as well and teach it to our clients. Like eating dinner earlier is a good thing. And I think we're learning more about circadian biology, how light cycles are changing, you know, our genes dynamically, and just the impact of eating too heavy of a meal on sleep. Like when your heart rate's going to be higher, your core temperature is going to be higher when there's that much digestion. And there's a lot of people now who are tracking their sleep with all the Oura rings, seeing that sleep scores kind of get destroyed if you eat too much food too late, even if it's like a calorie balance plan. And we know that if you want to increase your risk of cardiovascular disease, one risk factor would be like have disrupted sleep for sure. Totally. So there's many variables here, but I'm trying to eat during the time when the sun is setting or set. Like I try to be like kind of wrapped up, and that doesn't work like that all the time, but hey, you have a schedule and something to aim for, and that's what we need. We need a template that works for us, that doesn't have a lot of friction, and we want to aim for it the best we can a given day. And if it doesn't work out perfectly this day, we have the next day. It's a practice. You don't win the game of health. Even if you're super healthy, like you still got to show up 5-10 years from now to do it. So connecting to it in a way that's fun and also makes sense to you. That's why learning on these podcasts is so good, because you're making new neural connections to ideas that have been floating around. And now you're more motivated because you're like, oh shit, I see the puzzle coming together. I know why I felt that way that one time. You're literally becoming more solid by listening to this. You're solidifying your understanding. And for that, I'm really excited for everyone who's here.
Also, if you have good foundational behaviors, if there is a night where you end up going out late and eating too late, you can buffer that because you have this foundation that's doing these things by the book. And I think that's really important to mention, is that the indulgences have far less of a deleterious impact if they're done against a really solid baseline.
100%. And one thing we build in, which is kind of cool for many reasons, is we don't call them cheat meals because that like has a weird connotation that you're doing something like bad. We call them free meals. And when we're teaching people how to like manage their own nutrition plan, their behaviors, we give them the ability to have a free meal per week. And you typically like plan for it. Like I'm going out with friends Friday night and we're going to a restaurant, like that's a free meal, and you do what you want. And then you learn to experience the consequences the next day. Like very times when I have free meals, I love the meal. It's like, it's super enjoyable. And the next day I'm bloated, my GI tract is a little off, and like, it just makes me reflect like, oh, and sometimes I'm like, man, that was great. I love that. I was so glad I did it. Other times I was like, man, I didn't need that third pizza and the sushi. Like that was just like too much. Right. And so we're teaching ourselves through the carrot and the stick. And I think that's good because that also trains us. So free meals, plan them, and you learn from how your body responds to these things. And over time, I start to do these way less just because I love feeling great, but still, it's a fine time to enjoy food.
And that feedback is important because, especially in the cohort that we often speak with, they're so motivated, they're so well-read that they can end up being too adherent to the rules, and they don't do anything outside of the box, and they're just operating off of fear. Well, can't have gluten, can't have dairy, can't have oxalates, can't have carbs. And they probably could. And they'd actually feel a lot better if they had that free meal, which I'm going to borrow, by the way. I love that. Every once in a while, they'd feel less encumbered by all the rules. And they'd also discover through that biofeedback, what can I do? What can I do? Maybe carbs are okay for me if it's like rice and sushi, but maybe it's the sugars. So maybe I say yes on the pizza, yes on the sushi, but no on the cake. And that's how you learn, like, what, where can I have that wiggle and that fun with minimum repercussion?